So it's very important verse, and is basically to understand the true goal of Dharma, the religion. So before we start, I would like to actually do the prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om
Namo Bhagavate Devaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurulmitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gururve Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivo Narattamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyat Nashta Prayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. जय श्री राधा गिरधारी भगवान जी की जय, जब लोग शिला गुरुदेव की जय, शिला प्रपात की जय, श्री श्री गौर निताय जी की जय, श्री श्री राधा गिरधारी भगवान जी की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरे हरे बोल. So Srimad Bhāgavatam 1.2.9. So this is very important verse and quite melodious as well. So I would actually like to recite that first. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthayopakalpate narthasya dharmaya kantasya kamo labhaya hi smritah. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthayopakalpate narthasya dharmaya kantasya kamo labhaya hi smritah. For word to word synonyms, translation and purport, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai. Dharmasya, occupational engagement. Actually, I would just change the screen. Okay. He, certainly, apavargasya, ultimate liberation, na, not, artha, he, end, arthaya, for material gain, upakalpate, is meant for, na, neither, arthasya, of material gain, dharma ek antasya, for one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service, kamaha, sense gratification, labhaya, attainment of, he, certainly, smritaha, is described by the great sages. Occupational engagement, certainly, ultimate liberation, not aimed for material gain, is meant for neither of material gain nor one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service. Sense gratification, attainment of exactly is described by the great sages. So, translation. Jashla all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to the sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate the sense gratification. Purport. We have already discussed that pure devotional service to the Lord is automatically followed by perfect knowledge and detachment from material existence. But there are others who consider that all kinds of different occupational engagements, including those of religion, are meant for material gain. The general tendency of any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or any other occupational service. Even in the Vedic literatures, for all sorts of religious performances, an allurement of material gain is offered, and most people are attracted by such allurement or blessings of religiosity. Why are such so-called men of religion allured by material gain? Because material gain can enable one to fulfill desires, which in turn satisfy sense gratification. This cycle of occupational engagements includes so-called religiosity followed by material gain and material gain followed by fulfillment of desires. Sense gratification is the general way for all sort of fully occupied men. But in the statement of Sudha Goswami, as per verdict of Srimad Bhāgavatam, this is nullified by the present shloka. One should not engage himself in any sort of occupational service for material gain only, nor should material gain be utilized for sense gratification. How material gain should be utilized is described as follows. So, as it is actually clearly said in a translation, all occupational engagements. So, I think in my previous class, I discussed what is the ultimate dharma, what is the highest occupation for all humanity. So, that is a savai pumsa parudharma. So, this verse now talks about the same occupational engagements, but is not actually really focusing on ultimate occupational service, but is talking about all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation, and they should never be performed for material gain. So it's very important instructions because as we see in this material world, most of the time people actually approach religion with the motive in their mind, and most of the time they actually want some material benefit out of whatever the actually sacrifices or the or even the karma kand process they are doing, and they actually think that is the religion, that is what religion is meant for. But this verse actually nullify that clearly, as it is actually as we read in that purport. So I would actually the word to word synonyms apavargasya. So this word is very important, and Srila Sutta Goswami says that the purpose of dharma or a system of religion is to of take one along the path towards liberation from birth and death. So that is actually real purpose of the religion. And the word apavargasya. So apavarg. So there are actually different vargas in Sanskrit linguistic, and it's quite actually similar to Devanagari script as well, and even in the Marathi is also very similar. So here the power is given. So pa pa ba bha ma. So that is one of the power in the Sanskrit language, which is quite similar that we see actually in Marathi. We have the similar powers like vargas, sha sha ba bha ma or yara lavasa. So this here is referring to that actually power in the Sanskrit linguistic. Pa pa ba bha ma. So pa actually indicate. So all these actually five stands for different material miseries. So out of that, first one is a pa, which indicates parishram. Pa for parishram, hard labor. So in the material world, one has to work very, very hard, and there is no escape from this. Actually, no one can say that they're not going to work and they will be fine. So that is not a fact. Everyone has to work very hard to actually make their ends meet, and that is a real fact. The second one is a fur, and fur is actually refers to penila or a foam. So as you see, actually, when you work very hard, especially in case of animals, if you have seen the actually in India, the bullock carts, or the bullocks they use for farming. So they have to do real hard work in the actually field when they actually, they're engaged in actually plowing the land. And the farmer actually make them work very hard. They have to pull that plow and try to till the soil. And if they do not move, actually farmer, they use a stick and they beat the actually bulls to actually make them pull that forward. And sometime because of such a hard work, the foam comes out of their mouth. So we see that actually even in today's world, even in New Zealand, you see actually Melbourne Cup, the horses, they race it, and they actually sometimes they have to beat them to actually make them run very fast, and you can see the foam is coming out of their mouth, And our situation is not very different from animals. You may not see the foam is not coming out of the, foam is not coming out of the mouth, but we are under huge actually stress. In today's world, stress is very common. Even small children, they are actually, experiencing the stress in their lives now. So we are working very hard and there is no escape. And more we work hard, this material nature is such that actually they make us even work harder, and that is what we have experienced. So that is another fact is mentioned here. That is one of the miseries. The next one is the barthata, so the frustration. So when we actually work very hard, actually work hard that our foam is coming out of mouth, and still we see that actually we're not getting what we want, and that's how we actually, our senses are not satisfied. We get actually frustrated. And the next one is bha. Bha stands for bhai, fear. So even if you actually work hard and actually you earn a lot of material things, even if you prosper, there is always a fear of losing that, fear of losing this, fear of losing that. So you are always fearful. And when you are fearful, there's a lot of anxiety. So even if you have all the material things you want, you are still not happy. And you are always frustrated as well, as actually, we discussed. And last one is ma, that stands for mrityu. So in the end, actually, all our life, we actually spend working hard, try to actually earn money, earn all the material things that we want. But in the end, we have actually, there is no escape from the death. Actually, even if we spend, all our life working and actually acquiring things, in the end, Krishna will take everything away if we do not engage that in Krishna's service. You will see Krishna as a death in the end. So these five miseries of this material existence, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma, is very nicely described by this word here. And Suta Goswami explaining here that religion should not be actually used as a means to actually acquire things materially. We should not have material motives, but religion, actually, we should use this dharma to actually nullify these five miseries that is stated here. So no more hard work, no more foaming at the mouth, no more frustration, and no more fearfulness, and no more death. So what actually he's trying to say here, that we need to understand what is the real purpose of dharma here. Actually, we should use dharma to actually make ourselves to liberate from this material existence and elevate ourselves to the transcendental platform where we can actually engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So that is the main purpose of the dharma is given here. But in this material world, as we can see, that everyone actually want to enjoy, everyone want to actually have all the material opulence, and they do not want to actually work hard. They want to actually have everything without doing any work. So that is a general tendency. And Srila Prabhupada says that actually this tendency is there because that is coming from Krishna as well. But Krishna, as a supreme personality, has no duty to perform. He do not work. Uh, and the same tendency is in us. But because we are in this material world, we are under the influence of this external energy, we have to work hard and we cannot escape that. There is no one in this material world who can say that I'm really great, I'm very wealthy and I don't have to work. That doesn't happen. And Srila Prabhupada gave this very nice example. Nahi suptasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mrigaha. The lion is known as the king of the forest. He still has to work. The lion cannot simply lie down and hope that some animal will come and say, "My dear lion, open your mouth. and I will enter inside your mouth. That doesn't happen. Even he's a king of the forest, he still has to go and hunt, he has to make an effort. So even the most powerful personalities in the world, maybe President of America or President of New Zealand, he cannot just lie down and say that actually I don't have to do anything, I'm so great. He has to work actually. The more powerful you are, you have to work even harder, like an ass, to actually get that presidency. So everybody's situation is like that. But God, he is different. He don't have to work. Srila Prabhupada actually gave the example. There was a European gentleman, actually, he came to India, tried to actually find the God, and he visited many temples. So he went to the temple of Kali, he went to the temple of Shiva, and so many others. And finally, when he come to the temple of Radha Krishna, and he saw that deities, Krishna is just standing there with his flute and he's just smiling. And then he said, here is God. And Srila Prabhupada said, why he said that? Because he went to the Kali temple and he said that Kali was working, he's killing all the demons. Shiva was actually sitting and he's meditating. So everyone was working, but Krishna is the only one he saw that he's just standing and playing a flute and enjoying. And that's what Krishna does. Actually, he's actually in Golok Vrindavan, he's actually enjoying with Srimati Radharani and all the gopis and gopas. So that is God. And God do not have to do any work. He don't have any duty to perform. But we have the same tendency, but because we are in this material world, because we revolted against the God, we have taken the birth in this material world, and we have to work hard. Otherwise, there is no other option. But here it says that actually all the occupational engagements, so whatever occupation you're doing, so occupational engagement is referred as dharma here. So Prabhupada says that a man should be actually, they should follow religion. Doesn't matter what religion they follow. It could be Hindu, it could be Muslim, it could be Christianity. They have to follow some sort of religion. Otherwise, he will not call the human being. Normally, in Vedic religion, there are the four goals of Vedic life. It's called Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And when one accepts these four goals, then he's called human being. And actually, the purpose of this, actually, all four Vedic goals is to actually elevate himself and where he can actually render service to the God. So, and whatever we earn, we have to actually, as actually said that in translation, that we should not actually, perform any religious activity for material gain. And even if we have actually some money, we should not actually engage that money for our own sense gratification. Rather, we actually engage that in the service of the Lord. And we should actually give everything in the service of the Krishna. But some people might say that we need money for our actually survival, subsistence. And that is also the fact. We do need money. But Srila Prabhupada says that we should only have the belonging enough to keep our mind and soul together, body and soul together. And everything else should be actually engaged in the service of the Lord. So even we have actually, it's very hard to actually implement this instruction in reality, but we are trying to do that. And even you have full of different material desires, and if you want to fulfill them, still it is said that you should actually uh, surrender to Lord Krishna, and those desires will be fulfilled. There is a nice, very nice actually Bhagavatam verse actually which talks about this. So I will just read that. Dharmartha kama mokshayam ya ichche sheya atmanaha ekama hi eva harestatra karanam pada sevanam. Any person who desires the fruits of four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and spiritual development and at the end, liberation, should engage himself in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For worship of his lotus feet yield the fulfillment of all these. So Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So I will not read the entire purport, but actually I will only refer to what is relevant here. So as Lord Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita, performance of ritualistic ceremonies is not actually religion. So yeah, this is a very important point to understand. The real path of religion is to surrender at the lotus feet of Lord. For one who is actually surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord, there is no question of any separate endeavor for economic development. A devotee engaged in the service to the Lord is not disappointed in the satisfaction of his senses. If he wants to satisfy his senses, Krishna fulfills that desire. As far as liberation is concerned, any devotee fully engaged in the service of the Lord is already liberated because there is no separate necessity for his liberation. Narad Muni therefore advised Dhruv Maharaj to take shelter of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, and engage himself in the way that his mother had advised, for that would help him fulfill his desire. So we all know the actual story of Dhruv Maharaj and actually what he wanted to achieve. So there was actually material desire. So even if you have material desires, actually, even if we still, we should actually surrender into lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and he will still fulfill that desire. And also, as we engage in the loving devotional service of the Lord, it will also slowly purify our materialistic propensities, and we will actually, slowly progress to actually to the point where we can able to do the pure devotional service. So coming back to the actually point where we're discussing that where actually God means we have this propensity of actually not working, and we want to actually enjoy without doing a work. So God can do that as we discussed, but we have to work hard. And so in this material world, even we work very hard that sometimes foams come out of our mouth, yet we are not assured of the success. So even doing all this hard work, there's no any guarantee that actually we will achieve what we want, and we're always fearful. And no matter what, how hard we work, we must die, and this is our position. So religion is meant to actually nullify these 5 kinds of material miseries: the hard work, foaming at mouth, frustration, fearfulness, and death. That is the purpose of the dharma. So sometimes actually people are going, and as we say that people actually normally take religion uh, as a means to actually earn something material. So as we see in other religion like Christianity, even the Islam, and even in the Hindu, people go and ask for some material benefit, ask for a bread or ask for money, but that is not a real purpose of the dharma. The real prayer is to actually ask Krishna, "Oh God, please engage me in your service so I may be freed from these 5 tribulations." And that is the real prayer, as Prabhupada say here. Anyone who goes to church and prays to God for bread is 1,000 times still better than rascal atheist. So there is actually atheistic theory I was actually reading into. It's called a Charvak theory, and they do not actually believe in a self as a soul, and they do not believe in God as well, and they think that everything will finish with this body. So they actually say that we should actually enjoy our senses as much as we can, because in the end, once the body is finished, everything will finish. But that is, Prabhupada says, it is an atheistic theory. And Prabhupada questions, if everything finish with the body, then why we are working so hard? We should actually work enough so that we have our subsistence. What is the need there to actually work like an ass? So So that is actually point to understand. And when, as I say, some people actually go to the God asking for like money. Some are looking for the actually knowledge. Some are looking for, some are inquisitive. Bhagavad Gita verse actually is very nicely explains that 7.16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritno arjuna artho jignashur artharti jnani cha bharata shaba. So there are four kind of pious people who actually go to the God. The first one is distressed one. Any common man who is pious will pray to the God when he is distressed. The second one, who the poor people, they go to the God asking for money. The people who are inquisitive, who is God, what is God, they try to understand. Those people also go to the God. And the last one, the nannies, who are actually very serious about actually to learn about God and try to understand God. So all these four people, we have actually discussed that in actually previous classes. They are actually try to approach God. But there are also atheistic, as I said, the Charvak, theory, and there are other atheists as well who do not believe in God. So Bhagavad Gita verse, Namama dushkritino muda prapadante naradhama mayaha parihita jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. So people who are grossly foolish, the lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, they do not surrender unto Lord Krishna. So that is what is saying here. So the atheistic people, they do not believe in God, and they're only actually concerned about the sense gratification. So even actually people who still believe, and still they do have this actually uh, asura like tendencies. So people who are only mad after the sense gratification. So their only business is to satisfy their senses. They do not worry about actually serving the God. And Prabhupada actually called them demons as well. And they are called adhiras, who are actually only mad after sense gratification. And there are also dhiras. So dhiras are the people who know actually who they are. They are a spirit soul, and they know who God is, and they understand their relationship with the God. And that is that they are the subordinate, they are servant, and their only business is to actually serve the God. So that person is called dhira. So dhira also means the person with actually who has controlled their senses, who's not focusing on actually satisfying his senses. And it is also said that in a situation, when there is every situation to be provoked, the one who is not provoked is also called dhira. So that is what actually we should actually put all our efforts to achieve that stage of dhira. And as it is said that actually even when we actually try to become Krishna conscious, as we all know that the material prosperity is bound to come. As it says that dharma artha kam moksha. So the dharma, after dharma, earth comes. So that is a material prosperity. And when we get a material prosperity, we general tendency is to use that actually money or material prosperity for our sense gratification. But this was actually nullify that. It says that we should not use any material gain that is actually obtained through religious performances, or even if we born in actually rich family, we still should not use that money for our own sense gratification, as everything belongs to Lord Krishna. Isha vasam idam sarvam. So Isha vasam principle, the Lord is actually the proprietor of everything. He controls everything. So the money that we actually get, even by birth or by performing actually different religious activities, is all belong to Lord Krishna only. And it should be used in his service, because just like to give example that in present days, suppose if you are actually servant of the government, and if you have the access to government money, and if you use that for your own purposes, for your own sense gratification, then you will be put into jail, because actually you are using somebody else's money. So just like that, everything that we actually have in this material world is belong to Lord Krishna as well. And if you're not using that in his service, then that is actually sinful. So it is said that if you have any money, then you should engage that in Lord Krishna's service. So even if you don't have money, then you can use your intelligence in Lord Krishna's service. So there is actually very nice verse actually I would like to refer, and this is very important verse. It is actually stated in Vishnu Puran. It is stated in Srimad Bhāgavatam as well, and it is stated in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. So it's a Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 9, verse 42. एतावज जन्म सफलाम देहिनाम इह देहिषु प्रणेर अर्थेर दिव्यवाचा शेया आचरणम सदा. So it is a duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. So here is instruction actually how we should actually engage or material things in the service of the Lord. So it is said that Srila Prabhupada say that you should actually dedicate your entire life in the service of the Lord. As we know that there are a lot of devotees initially when Srila Prabhupada started this movement, they dedicated their entire life in serving Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada says that that is first class, that is pranay. And that one actually should try to do if possible. If you cannot do that, then at least you should use your money in the service of the Lord. And Prabhupada says, and it is also actually, we have actually studied in Nectar of Instruction, according to Dadadi principle, we should engage 50% of our money in the service of the Lord. And that is what is needed. And as we know, even actually, as we say, actually people who actually try to become Krishna conscious, they are doing the same. As most of the us know that people who are following this actually Hare Krishna WECAN program, you can see that actually everyone actually try to engage their actually the material things in the service of the Lord. As you can see, all we are sitting here, and actually I'm following this program for so long, and the only reason actually I'm actually get to this stage is because I actually started following Amrish Prabhu's program, and he is conducting program for such so long, and he's engaging his money, his resources in actually in this preaching business. So it's very important, and that is what is actually instructed here. Even very recently, His Grace Avinash Prabhu is also, he gave his one of his house for the actually devotional activities. So that way we should engage all our things in service of the Lord. Even if you don't have any money, then here it says that you should engage your intelligence. If you know, if you are actually intelligent, if you have studied, then Prabhupada says that actually go and preach or write some nice books and actually spread this Krishna conscious movement throughout the world. That way you can also serve Krishna. And even if you don't have any actually material opulences, if you're not intelligent, and even you cannot dedicate your life, then at least you have your vacha words, you can go and chant Harinam and actually ask other people to chant. At least that you can do. So the devotional service to the Lord is not checked by anything. So ahetuki apratihata. In any condition of the life, you can still perform your devotional service. And you know that. Prabhupada says that you can sit under a tree and chant Hare Krishna. And that is also devotional service. And that is what ISKCON is. So one do not have, here in this verse say that all your material gains should be engaged in a devotional service. So even someone who is poor, who don't have anything, still he can chant and spread the glories. You don't have to have any material opulence. So that is what I actually understand from this instruction here. It also refers to actually this verse to two different activities in this material world. One is called Shreyas and another is a Prayas. The Shreyas, activities which are ultimately beneficial and auspicious, and Prayas are those who are immediately beneficial and auspicious. So example is given here is a small child. Normally children like to play and sometimes they play all day and they do not eat their even lunch. Same with the Lord Krishna. When he was in Vrindavan, he used to play with all the gopas, all day. And even he do not come home to eat his lunch. So Mother Yashoda has to go and find him and to induce him to eat something. So that is what is called as prayash. And our situation in this material world is very, if you're not actually try to become actually devotee, is very similar because we're very keen to actually get something that is very immediate satisfaction to our senses, just like a fast food, anything that is very easily obtainable, we are very interested, and that was actually give pleasure to our senses, but that is on the long term is not very beneficial. And as it says here, shares activities are ultimately beneficial and auspicious, and that is what actually this devotional service is. Initially it may sound very difficult, to implement this actually instruction of this verse in practice is very difficult, but if we try to do that slowly and steadily, then everything will fall in place. uh, okay, intelligent verse. So coming back to the verse back, just let me change it. So when we talk about dharma, so Prabhupada actually instructed that we should actually follow the varnashram dharma, and we must actually make every effort to actually implement that in our lives. But in today's world, in Kali Yuga, it's very hard to actually implement the varnashram system. And as we know, they are actually very nicely described. And even the purpose of the varnashram system is actually to satisfy the Lord Vishnu. Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. So that is, even if you actually try to implement the varnashram system, as we know, there are actually prescribed duties as per in what actually varnas you are in. If you are Brahmana, or if you are in Kshatriya or Vaishya or Chudras. So according to your position, you have your prescribed duties and you have to do that. So as we say that one must actually execute his duties, and if you're able to do that according to varnashram system, then definitely it will actually elevate ourselves to the actually transcendental platform where we can actually able to render the devotional service. So but varnashram system, if you think in today's world, in Kali Yuga, the situation we are in, to implement that, it sounds very difficult. But Srila Prabhupada says that even if it is difficult, it's not possible, then as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed, the Param Vijayate, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So Harer Nam, Harer Namayeva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva Gatiranyatha. So even if you chant, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, in the congregation with the other devotees, and you preach this to the rest of the world, still you will come out as a triumphant. There is no loss. So the process given in the Kali Yuga is very simple. But in principle, as we're discussing this verse, that one should follow some sort of dharma, and Prabhupada recommend here that we should if you're trying to be Krishna conscious, so we should take this actually Varnashram Dharma very seriously, and we should try to identify what is your prescribed duties, and one should actually act accordingly. And by doing that, uh, you will, as it says that actually previously we discussed, Savai Pumsa Paro Dharmo Yathor Bhaktir Dokshaje Ahetuki Apratihata Yayatma Suprasiddhiti. So once we actually able to render the devotional service unto Lord Krishna, and if we able to make that Ahetuki Apratihata, without any motive, and if you make it uninterrupted, continuous, then we will achieve this actually state of mind, where we have the actually peace and satisfaction, yayatma suprasiditi. We will attain that stage. So because we are still in the contaminated stage, and that's why we think that actually uh, if we use all these material opulences that we have, and we actually always try to actually fall prey, that we think that by actually engage these things in satisfying our senses we'll become happy, but that is not the case. We actually, as we say, as we just discussed the prior tribulations of this material existence, the pa. So we will always get entangled if you actually use the result of our activities, and if we do not dedicate that in service of Lord Krishna, then we'll get entangled in this material world more and more, and will suffer. So consequently, uh, so we have to actually understand that. And Srila Prabhupada also said that once we actually actually get to the stage of pure devotional service to the transcendental platform, and when you actually serve Krishna on that pure platform, then you will get the bliss which is you have never experienced. Is ever increasing. And because Krishna has all these six opulences, as we know, as Bhagwan, he has all six opulences, and he's enjoying. He's always blissful. And because you are serving him on the same platform, you are actually enjoying the same level of bliss, more or less, maybe not 100%, but because you are on the same platform, you will derive that pleasure as well. So there is no actually, if you understand this point, so there is no point that actually to engage ourselves, you know, or try to actually use material things, or try to seek the material, seek the pleasure out of these material things by satisfying our senses. Based that actually we use all our senses in the service of the Lord. And once our senses are purified, then we will actually taste the real nectar, the real happiness. So that is actually sum and substance of this verse, that whatever we have, we should engage in the service of the Lord. And especially, as it says, the one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service. So that is the actually paradharma. So that is a loving devotional service unto the Lord. They should never use material gain to cultivate the sense gratification. So as everyone has seen that actually once you actually start on this process, the material prosperity is bound to come. So we should actually be very particular that now we know, now we have this knowledge that actually what we need to do. So as more and more things will come to us, we should always make a plan to use in a devotional service rather than keeping it for ourselves. Uh, we also has discussed that you can serve the Lord even if you have the money, you can engage that. If you don't have money, and if you have the intelligence, you can engage that, or you can use your word vacha to spread the Krishna consciousness. But thing is, like, if you're wealthy, Prabhupada says that you must use that money in service of the Lord. Or you cannot say that, oh, actually Krishna says you can use your vacha in your service and you are a very wealthy man. Then you cannot just keep all your money to your family and friends, and you go there with your beads saying that here I am Krishna, I'm serving you with the vacha. So that is cheating. Prabhupada calls it cheating. Krishna is very intelligent. He knows, and he will know where you have kept all your money. So that is the important. The way Srila Prabhupada put that forward is very, I found is very interesting. And that's what happens, the mind is always playing game with us, as Guru Maharaj says that, mind is very tricky. It will always give you the spiritual instruction under material guise of material instruction, something like that. And we have to actually understand that point. We should know, actually, if our mind is giving us a right instruction, and if you're chanting sincerely and try to actually purify yourself, then Lord Krishna, as Paramatma in your heart, he will always give you the right instruction and right direction. And we should have that actually, that much intelligence to accept that instruction and implement that in our real life. And that is the actually, if we actually studying this verse and if we understand this instruction, then we will actually, it's worthwhile that we learn something from this verse. And that is my realization. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So if you have any questions, you can ask now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, as you said that if you don't have intelligence and material money, then you chant Hare Krishna and like convince people to chant. But and it also but Prabhuji, in preaching, people judges us by our position, designation, and all such things. So how should we deal with that, Prabhuji? People judge that how much money you have, on what position in material life you have, so they judge it in that way.
Yes, you are very right, Prabhuji. In the material world is such that, yeah, people, if you are successful materially, there are a lot of people who want to follow you. That is actually the fact. And but our experience, my experience means we have seen this, that people who are actually truly searching for true knowledge about the God, about the Krishna, then if you're sincerely searching, they will actually come into the actually right contact, they will find a actually right guru who is not very, the very famous or something, but who is very truthful. So as it says that if you have a sincere, uh, if you are very sincere and if you really want to actually know God, then you will find a right guru. And if you have hidden motives, then you will always find a cheater guru. So depend the people who are looking and what are their motives, then that will also make a difference. But you are very actually rightly said that people will always judge you on your material position. If you are very successful, if you are wealthy, then more and more people want to follow you. So, but even if you don't have anything, any of these material things, then as Srila Prabhupada says that you can actually just go and chant Krishna's names and actually try to spread the glories. And that is all you can do. Uh, because that is your service to Lord Krishna. You're not actually in the business of actually gathering a crowd. Actually, you're not doing for anybody else. You should actually do to actually purify yourself. At least you are engaged, and that is real purification. Because as Prabhupada, when Prabhupada went to the United States, America, at the very beginning of when this movement was inaugurated, so he used to actually stand in the park and he used to chant, and he used to sing kirtans all by himself, standing below the tree. And that went on for many weeks, many months. And no people actually, used to come and try to approach him. And later, then slowly people come and that movement was slowly, it taken off. But all these months, Srila Prabhupada was chanting there and he was very firm in his ambition, what he's doing. And later, actually, someone asked Srila Prabhupada that question. Prabhupada, you were standing there and actually chanting, glory, actually singing kirtan, and nobody came, and you still kept on doing that. Why? So Srila Prabhupada answered, actually, he was just actually, glorifying the Lord, and he has no intention of actually gathering the crowd. So when we do preaching, actually that is first for actually our own benefit. Means actually in the initial stages when we chant, actually we're not really purified enough to actually change people. Actually that is actually the service that we should do, that from best of our abilities we try to preach, even if we don't have any actually qualification. If you go on, because we have experienced that actually we try to distribute books, we used to run after different people and nobody used to respond. And at that time I remember I asked that question actually to Amrish Prabhu very beginning, and the realization at that time shared, that is the austerity that we perform. It purifies our ego, because if nobody is buying book from us, we feel very bad. Actually we can't able to do anything, can't even sell a single book. But actually still you, if you stand there and you try your best, Krishna in your heart is actually, he's monitoring everything, and depending on how sincere, at least you will receive that benefit. So you are actually engaged and you are purified. And because Srila Prabhupada, actually even Srila Prabhupada was such a great devotee, it took months to actually, all the people, they started to actually, respond. So it can happen. But when we say, as you ask the question, that actually when we try to preach, our business is actually, just preach our message and your job is done. The person takes that message or not is up to him and Krishna. So we should actually preach from our best of our abilities and try to glorify his name, and you will be purified. You will be engaged, your family will be engaged. So that is my understanding, Prabhuji. If Amrish Prabhu would like to add anything, means Prabhuji, maybe he can able to better answer this question.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, very nice. You explained very nicely. Thank you for your nice realizations, a nice class, and the explanation is also all right. I think Mukunda, for this stage, he's from the beginners program. So obviously this question would be for him, and that is the reason why I simply say that we do not ask you to become a pauper artificially, not to focus on, not to earn money. This is not everybody's business. It's very, very rare, very special people who would stop focusing upon earning money. And Krishna says that one who earns whatever income, whatever wealth comes by its own will, naturally, as per one's own karma, they accept it. This is a very mature stage, and which is true. Even if you work very hard, you are going to earn that much only, not more, not less. So people are always going to judge you. So there is a reason why for preaching we have to plan. And for preaching, unless and until you are a bit of a sannyasi, renounced, you're a bit older, if you're young, if you're family, then if you are preaching to other people who have got family, then they will definitely judge you. So you have to have a house. You have to have some prosperity somewhere. Otherwise, people will say, I don't want to become like you. You can be Krishna conscious, whatever. You don't have money to eat food. I'm all right at my stage, And it used to happen. When we used to do program in my home, I remember one devotee, he's now become a devotee, big devotee. But he came, he saw my home. I said, oh, you don't have a table, dining table. It was there. I'd kept it away to create space for people to come in the, people to have the class, But he said, you don't have dining table, I said, no, yeah, I have. It's kept on the side. Said, there it is. Oh, okay. And then after some time, he said, oh, you have only 2 bedrooms in the house, I said, no, there are more. It's a bigger house because we blocked out everything. Oh, all this because he's staying in 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom. So he's staying in his highs, And he may have a small table That's why he's seeing from their eyes. So everybody's a rascal. We are also, as devotees, also we are rascal. We are not purified. But from animal stage, we used to become human stage. But you explained very nicely, Shital Prabhu. Thank you very much. Mukunda, more will be explained as we discuss in our beginners program. Is it okay for you?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we are about the time, but still, if you have any other questions, because it was a very nice class. Anyone like to give your realizations, please feel free. We can do for a few more minutes. No? Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Shital Prabhu, for your nice class and for all participation. Now what we'll do is that I'm going to now break this link in YouTube. So all our YouTube viewers, we'll see that we are going offline. And in about 1 minute, there'll be another channel coming up live on YouTube, our channel only. Another link will come out live. That will be the next program, which will be coming up for the beginners program on the concept of Bhagavad Gita. So those of you who are following us on YouTube, please stay tuned. You'll be we are disconnecting now this link, and in about 1 minute, we'll get another link there. So please be patient there. Thank you very much. Jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishnadas, can you start singing Jai Radha Madhava, please? And I'll disconnect the link now. I'm disconnecting the link now. Hare Krishna.